Welcome back to our candidate interview series. Today we have Gina Geiger, who's running for Superintendent of Schools. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. You ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay. What are your top goals if you're elected?
Top goals if elected: financial stewardship, school safety, and building morale.
What are the biggest issues that you think the Superintendent of Schools or that position needs to address?
Well, the three that I just mentioned, and we'll start with financial stewardship first. According to the Florida statutes, all school districts are required to maintain a minimum 3% fund balance. And basically, the fund balance is like your emergency savings account. Last summer, the school board was notified by the district office that our fund balance had actually dropped below the 3% to 1.85%. This was extremely alarming, and the state had to be notified. We had to put a hold on spending and purchasing. So finances is definitely concerned. I know our finance department is working hard. I know they've put in some proactive measures and changed some of their procedures. And just so everyone knows, 73% of our budget funds salaries and benefits. And it's hard to bring that fund balance up, especially quickly, unless you're making cuts in positions, which nobody wants to talk about that. So I think we need to be very strategic in how we spend our money and in what areas we can cut back in. The other priority is school safety. Each year, the state allocates funds for safe schools and school hardening. Safe schools, for the most part, helps to pay for the school resource officers, and school hardening can fund things like fencing, additional cameras, things like that. And by the way, our sheriff's office and resource officers have been asking for the last couple of years for additional cameras for school safety. When it comes to the specifics of school safety, I'm not at liberty to discuss those details because of security purposes. However, what is alarming is that the district received funds for 3 years in a row for school hardening, and we just discovered that at a board meeting not too long ago that the state took the money back because none of the money was ever used. And this just is not acceptable because the safety of our staff and students should always be a priority. Building morale. As a leader, one of your primary responsibilities is to ensure the well-being of your staff. I feel that when your teachers or your staff are empowered and they feel engaged and motivated, they will work harder to be the best versions of themselves. According to conversations I've had with numerous teachers at the schools, the morale is pretty low right now. So if I'm elected as school superintendent, one of my top priorities is to make sure we improve our school culture. Improving school culture means creating a positive environment for our staff, our teachers, administration, parents, and our students. I think that's important, that they feel valued and their voices are heard and they're respected. I also will reduce any extraneous paperwork that's put on our teachers. This is an extra burden for them, and if it's not required by the state, I don't know why we're asking that of them. I'd rather them spend their time planning quality, engage in lesson plans for our students. I would also like to see more parent involvement. And of course, we can't talk about building morale and a positive environment without discussing discipline. Just so everyone knows, we do have a student code of conduct handbook. This is required by all school districts. And last summer, the district and the school board actually had a discipline workshop, and we looked at our discipline policies and made some adjustments to it. And we actually created a discipline matrix which has all the offenses listed on there, along with the minimum consequences. It also includes optional additional consequences for students if they're continuing to commit the same offense, or maybe the severity of the offense in itself. I think it's important at the school level that our school administration enforces the discipline and that there are consequences. But I also like to add too that I am a firm believer in positive reinforcement. I believe in rewarding and recognizing students for good behavior as well. All this fosters a positive environment, builds morale, and in the long term actually increases student achievement as well.
What are some changes you would like to make if you're elected?
Right off the bat, as a district, we've got to do better at communicating with our stakeholders, which includes your teachers, your parents, and the school board. If elected, I will work to collaborate and communicate with our school board because I know what it's like to be on that side of the seat. It's very frustrating as a school board member when we find out something that's very important on Facebook or through somebody else. When there's a lack of communication and transparency, with your school board, that instills a level of distrust, and it's not a good working relationship. Abraham Lincoln once said, "A house divided will fall." And right now, we're not working together like we should be and we need to be. If elected, that will change, because I will work with our school board. I will also work with our schools and make sure that communication and transparency is there with our teachers as well as our parents. Another change I'd like to make is looking at our academic options for our students. First of all, I'd like to look at our ESE model and the services we offer to our students. I would like to meet, if elected, with Miss Mandy Brock, who's our ESE director, and I can tell you she's got a heart of gold, and I know she really cares about the students. But I would like to add some additional options for those students. I have experience in ESE. I worked at the state level with 47 small rural school districts, and even in my own school, I know what options can be available for those students. So I want to make sure that every student is being served. I would also like to tweak some of the things in our student progression plan, in particular our middle and high school, because right now the district has additional requirements included in that are not required by the state, and sometimes that can be harmful, in my opinion, to certain students, because I don't think we should base everything on a test score. Students are more than a test score. I think we need to look at multiple data points, get input from your teachers and your parents as well, and make a collaborative decision on what's the best choice for that student so they can grow and be successful. Another area I'd like to look into is seeking grants and other fund sources to add an additional vocational tech program. I would love to bring back the auto mechanics program that we used to have. So that's definitely something I would like to do.
What are the biggest challenges you think the county or the schools face right now?
I would definitely say growth. There's a lot of people moving into our county on a regular basis. And of course, with growth comes an increase in student population. And that is one of the reasons why the school district is looking to build another elementary school. So that's definitely a challenge and things we need to look at. School financing, that's a concern when we're talking about building another school. I just want to make sure that when the time comes that we have the funds available to build and actually operate a school. If we don't, we may need to consider some other options, like possibly adding on to the schools that we already have here, in place.
What are some things that you think the superintendent of schools in that position is doing well right now?
I think Dr. Surrency works hard. I think he's a good man, and I think, or I will say that the superintendent and the school board share a common goal, and I would say that common goal is we want to do what's best for students. And we may not always agree on how we get there, but ultimately we share that common goal. I think the school board does a pretty good job at making ourselves accessible to the public and making sure that we're their voice and representing the parents and our employees.
What makes you the best candidate for the position?
Well, besides the fact I have a college degrees in elementary and early childhood education, I have a master's degree in reading and learning disabilities and a specialist degree in educational leadership. I consider myself to be a pretty well-rounded candidate because of the different experiences that I've had in the field of education. As a current school board member, I know the changes that need to be made, and I'm willing to make them. Most importantly, I have a servant leadership style of management, which means I will listen and I will support and help. I believe the role of the superintendent in the school district is to support our schools and our staff in making sure they have what they need to be successful.
And what experience do you bring that will help you once you're elected?
Well, pretty much all that, and the fact that I have 30 years of experience at different levels within the field of education, from elementary to middle school to high school. I was a professor for St. Leo's College of Education for 8 years at night. And of course, I'm a current school board member serving in my 8th year. And I think all those different experiences just adds to my level of experience that I can bring to the table.
What can the citizens of Gilchrist County expect from Gina Geiger, Superintendent of Schools?
Well, I saw this quote the other day and it resonated with me, and it said, "Great leaders are not the best at everything. They find people who are the best at different things and get them on the same page." What can the citizens of Gilchrist County expect from me? They can expect change, positive change. They can expect to see me actively involved and present in our schools.
And then is there anything that we haven't talked about so far that you feel like everybody needs to know?
Well, I know Gilchrist is predominantly conservative, so I would like to say or also add that I am the state committee woman for the Republican Party of Florida, and I represent Gilchrist at the state level. I also sit on the educational platform to make sure I'm always aware of any legislation changes as it relates to education. I also have the full endorsement of State Representative Chuck Clemens because he knows I always put students first.
It's Gina Geiger for Superintendent of Schools.